welcome to this special episode of the Tech Takes podcast live at Networkshop 2026. I'm joined today by Rob Evans, our Chief Network Architect at Jisc. Hi Rob, would you like to tell us a little bit about your role at Jisc?
Okay, sure. So as you just said, my role is, my job title is Chief Network Architect. So I'm responsible for the overall design of the giant network, from the fiber in the ground through to the routers and switches that run on top of that, the optical equipment, and the services that we provide. So I've been working on the giant network for a bit over a quarter of a century at this point. So I'm quite familiar with it. And yeah, my role is trying to make sure that we design it to meet our customers' needs.
Perfect. Well, the whole event is here to talk about connectivity and networks, and that's kind of what we're going to talk a bit about in our podcast today. So just to kickstart the podcast, one question we've got is that IT leaders are being asked to deliver more digital services, manage cyber risk, and do it all with tighter budgets, something that we talked about here today, something we've talked about at our security conference. From your perspective, how has the role of the network changed in supporting those new expectations?
Yeah, so as Bella said in her opening here, the giant network is national infrastructure that is critical. When the network isn't there, teaching stops. It's not the case of when we first started doing this, the network was something that was nice to have, something that was used for communications, for emails, for data transfers. But as time has gone on, business has moved online, teaching has moved online, and especially in a post-COVID world where there's a lot of things happening via streaming and so on, the network is now critical. And when the network stops, teaching stops, research stops. So it's evolved quite a lot over the years.
And where do you see organizations like our members and customers most underestimating their dependence on the networks they have today?
Well, because it's always there, you often don't realize how dependent you are on it until there's a problem. So I mean, it's invisible, which is good, because when it's working, it's just doing what the business needs. But that means that when it goes away, you don't always realize exactly what's going to break until it does go away.
Which is far from ideal. So kind of moving forward, it's talking about that kind of risk and challenges and how to kind of diagnose it. So again, for that IT leader audience, so if they're reviewing their current setup and their network, what are the warning signs that their current connectivity might not be ready for what the organization needs next?
Okay. I mean, there might be hints. Might be things like you get reports of Teams calls are dropping, or you're on a call and suddenly all the videos going a bit blank, or someone is going, "Excuse me, Rob, have you dropped?" And you kind of go, "No, I'm still here," but you can't necessarily get the message across. But also, you need to be measuring this stuff as well, because what might be happening is that researchers are trying to transfer large amounts of data, and it might be taking them longer. It might not be working properly at all, and they might just work around it. They might not know what to expect of the network, and so they might just be working around it behind you and maybe putting a hard drive in the post somewhere rather than trying to transfer it over the network. And that's kind of what we want to get around, is making sure people are aware and measuring the network, so to make sure that when it's going wrong, and it's not just relying on calls from users to the help desk saying my Teams call isn't working.
Of course, and when we're thinking in terms of that, then so why would you say that consistency is kind of more important than peak performance, if you will, kind of when it comes to those busy times like exams, research workloads, or cloud access, things like that?
I think they're both important, to be honest. I think consistency and peak performance are both important for perhaps very different reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to, as you say, exams and stuff like that, you've got to be able to rely on a network. You do not want to have to rearrange exams, which are stressful times for students and for others. You don't have to say, sorry, we're going to have to rearrange your exams because the network is down. That isn't a situation that you really want to be in. So it needs to be consistent. It needs to be available. It needs to be, the university needs to be paying its bills. So all of the IT, all of the finance systems are online as well. So you need to have that consistency so that bills are paid on time. Students get their do their exams that they've been working hard to do. But equally, the researchers who want to transfer huge amounts of data, for example, the network needs to be there for them. It needs to be able to transfer that multi-terabyte set of data from the Large Hadron Collider to a researcher, so they can do their work and uh, do the science and the stuff that where the enabler for.
So, kind of again going back to some of the things that have been discussed here today and yesterday here at Net Workshop, um, cost and value are really important at this time, this current environment. So when we consider when budgets are tight, if you will, cheaper connectivity options can seem like an easy win.
Yeah.
But what are the hidden costs with that IT leaders should factor in when making these kind of decisions?
I think it's a number of aspects to that, really. So one of the things that Jisc Janet provides is a kind of a one-stop shop. We are the network provider from the institution through to your service provider. We provide that visibility, that single point of contact, really, for that connectivity. Um, and if you're going somewhere that's often less expensive connectivity, you really need to be kind of digging into what their external peering is, what their transit provisions are, their capacity. When it comes to global research and education connectivity, we kind of are the only people in the UK that can offer that at scale. Um, and then there's the whole cyber aspect of it as well, the cyber defense aspects of it as well. So, we have dedicated teams that are following global cyber threat trends, making sure that we're aware of them, making sure that the institutions, our customers' institutions, are defended against them. So, those are the sort of things you need to be kind of looking out for. Is scale, defense, breadth of connectivity.
So it sounds that the foundation is really important in
Yeah.
terms of your network solutions, your foundations that you've got in place. And so, why are those foundations important to support things that are a bit more maybe advanced, like cloud first strategies, hybrid working, or data heavy services?
Because if you don't have the network, you can't do that at all. So the network is the foundation for that connectivity to the cloud providers. The network is what enables the cloud first strategy to happen. Network is what enables the global research collaborations to happen. Um, it is fundamental to those. So it needs to be factored in as part of those strategies. If the resilience, the cyber defense, you need to be able to rely on those to be able to have your cloud first strategy so that when someone goes to edit their docs in OneDrive or goes to pay a finance bill, they can just open the website and it's there.
Brilliant. Something I've picked up from the sessions that have happened across the 2 days is that Janet's kind of been described as sector engineered, something I've picked up. What does that really mean in practice for an IT leader, for example, who are running, a complex organization?
So we have been doing this for over 40 years. The network and the requirements of the network have changed a lot over that time, but we've been working with our customers and members to meet those demands. We deal closely with the sector. We don't really deal with other sectors. We are the research and education network. We engineer for the needs of research and education. So we build a network with knowledge of the requirements of the sector, and try to make sure that we meet whatever those requirements are, both for connectivity and again for defense and safety, protection of those customers and members.
So how does the Janet network then in therefore kind of help to avoid problems that organizations could face that they would otherwise maybe have to try solve themselves?
Okay, so we have that awareness of the sector. We know what our customers are doing. We can work and build communities within the sector as well. So we have a number of specialists within just on building communities, working with communities, so that we can share knowledge. We build shared services. Really, shared services are what we're about, to try and make sure that we're taking the lead from our customers as well as providing leads to the customers and using those requirements that uh, we get from some members to help other members. So it's all about uh, shared services, community, trying to, again, trying to make sure that we're serving the sector and being able to use our knowledge of the sector and, build on the relationships we have with those customers and members.
Right. Kind of moving on now to look at kind of resilience and kind of real world performance then. So a lot of providers focus on SLAs, service credits. But how should I see leads think about resilience in a more meaningful way?
So, I mean, SLAs and service credits are, um, it's a nominal, usually monetary value that happens after an incident. Um, and what you need to try to be doing is trying to make sure that we make sure the incident doesn't happen. Or if an incident happens, we try and make sure that it doesn't happen again. So I think part of what we try to do is looking at the resilience, building out the resilience, but also when something does go wrong, because things will go wrong at some point, is making sure that we try and learn from that as well. So it's a service credit, an SLA is useful, but it's never going to really compensate for the disruption that the outage causes. What's better is for us to try and make sure that those incidents don't happen, or that we're mitigated as quickly as possible, or that we certainly learn from what's happened and try and prevent it happening again.
Yeah. On that resilience piece, then, when something does go wrong, and what we've heard, it's not a case of if, but when.
Yeah.
What actually makes the biggest difference to how quickly an organization can recover?
Um, well, first of all, there's fixing the problem, but then there's communications. If people think that the network is unreliable or unstable or something, they're not really going to want to be doing the roles, the tasks that they require, for they'll put it off. So then between Jisc and our customers, or even within organizations, what is key is really, I think, open communication about what's happening, making sure that people understand when something is fixed, being able to reassure people that, this is fixed, it's working now. Um, uh, Life can carry on. You go, work as you were. You don't need to worry about it. Um, Making sure that we provide that level of assurance that something is working. So that's mm,
Following then, and again, something that's been mentioned here, but certainly was prevalent at our security conference, is that cyber resilience is now a board level concern.
yeah.
That's kind of been factored in now. So, how can the network itself play a role in reducing risk and not just carrying traffic?
So the network itself is a valuable source of intelligence. Using the instrumentation in the network, using services like the Janet's name resolving service, we get intelligence about what is happening on the network, what's happening within our customers, using our external net flow data with our providers, and mixing that with the cyber threat intelligence. We can understand what's happening. We can try and prevent attacks. We can detect attacks early, try and mitigate them. Um, so when it comes to assuring the board knows what's best there is, using things like case studies. We publish case studies about how we're helping our customers. We have our own certifications as well. So we are the ISO 27001 information security, cyber essentials as well, to try and make sure that we can show we can show that we're adhering to best standards, hopefully going beyond those best standards, is that we are meeting those best standards, which is the stuff that can be passed up to the board and to others to um to show what we're doing.
So when we talk about security being built into the network, what does that really look like in practice for a member or customer?
So there's a few aspects to that. One of them is we have a fairly extensive set of DDoS mitigation on net. So it means we don't need to necessarily rely on other providers. We have systems that are monitoring the external edge of the network, looking at the traffic that's going in and out to the other providers, global transits, and then detecting attacks, feeding it back, blocking the attacks so it doesn't never reaches our customers. We use things like reverse policy zones within the name resolver service. But not what that means basically is that there are lists of known sites that are hosting maybe malware or command and control bots, and they're blocked at a DNS level for the people using the JNOS. So this is the kind of the intelligence, the tooling is being built into the network to try and defend our customers and members.
Great. Moving on then. So another kind of key theme at this event has been discussing cloud and data and sovereignty. So as more services move to the cloud, as we've
Yeah.
learned at this event, why does the path that data take actually matter?
It matters for a few reasons. First of all, it matters because of performance. We are a single network in between the customer and the cloud provider. We peer extensively, so we can try and reassure customers that that performance is there because it is just our network. We aren't really trying to hand off to lots of other parties. With we can assure them that we are there between the customer and the provider. They can talk to us. We can try and measure. We can show that path. But it also matters. You hinted at sovereignty there. We manage the network, so not only is it UK based, but it's managed in house. So we're in full control of it. We are able to show that where the data is going. We're able to assure where geographically where, topologically where, uh, but show that it's a wholly managed by us.
Yeah. So kind of following on from that then, how does the right network approach help reduce exposure and improve performance when accessing cloud services?
So we peer extensively with the cloud providers. We have direct connectivity to them. We are the one path in between the customer and the cloud provider. Certainly for the Googles, the Microsofts, the major cloud service providers. We're a private network, so we are able to defend it and protect it based on the requirements of our customers. There's a level of assurance in being able to just say, this is a research and education network. We are in control of the pathing between you and the provider. You can be sure that it's not uh, going via third parties that we aren't aware of, we have very little control over. It's just it's assured it's there.
Great. So moving forward to look at the future and future readiness of our networks. So what is going to put the most pressure on organizations' networks over the next few years?
I one thing that the sector is struggling with at the moment, obviously, is cost. The cost of everything, and we understand that we have the same challenges ourselves. So I think the sustainability of the network in terms of sustainability of networks as a whole, sustainability of campus networks. We often hear about campus networks that have had years of underinvestments. And we had a talk during Network Shop about one of those examples. So when you start thinking about future demands, It's trying to make sure that you aren't starting off from too much of on the back foot. It's trying to make sure that we're ready for what's coming next, whatever that might be. We're ready to be able to handle whatever capacity is required, ready to be able to handle what threats are coming out, coming your way. So that's, not just on Janet, but also very much within the campus network, within the wireless infrastructure, within the wired infrastructures, being sure that they're starting to think about what's happening and starting to prepare investment cases if need be.
So if you think about some of the trends that have kind of been discussed here in our workshop this year, we're thinking about AI, high performance computing, and data growth. How are they changing, and what do IT leaders need from their infrastructure to meet these new trends?
Yeah, so bandwidth is obviously going to be a factor. Uh, there are all of these doom stories about what AI might mean for the increases in bandwidth. I mean, what is happening is that if you look at the kind of the traffic patterns of a normal network, they're very heavily diurnal. They're based on the time of day. There's very little traffic on the network at 6 a.m. It rises very until about 10 a.m., 11 a.m. and it's busy through the day. Then goes off towards a bit of a plateau whilst people are maybe watching some YouTube at 6 p.m. and then starts dropping down again. So when AI is coming along, that's going to lead to a lot more machine-to-machine communication, which is going to be less bothered about the time of day it is, because there's going to be a lot of background chatter, as it were, between as things are crawled or as data sets are exchanged. So it's going to change the pattern of the network bandwidth. It's going to change the types of flow because it won't just be just be people looking at it. Um, there's going to be the need for sustainability as well, not just now purely in financial terms, but also in energy usage. We're lucky that the UK is a relatively small island, so the round trip time, the latency across the UK is not that large. So there's not necessarily a need to have compute in very expensive areas where it's very difficult to get more power in. So there are data center clusters in maybe Slough and London where they just cannot get any more power. The grid has no more power. So there's people starting to deploy compute elsewhere. So whether that's Scotland or somewhere else, and because the UK is a fairly small island, actually the latency between London and Scotland is not that large. Doesn't make that much of a difference to performance. So the network being ready to handle that sort of spread of where the users are and where the compute and storage are. That's definitely one thing. It's about getting ahead of the game, making sure that you're ready for that change in how the locality of stuff is. So changing behavior of machine to machine versus human to machine.
Brilliant. Well, before I let you get out of this staunching heat here in Nottingham, a couple more questions just to close us out. So, if an IT leader is listening to this podcast and kind of wants to pause and reflect on some of the things that they've set up themselves, kind of what are three questions that IT leaders should really ask themselves?
I think one is, are you listening to your users? Are you asking your users what they want, what they think they're going to need? Because we all think we know best, but there might be things that you're not aware of. Listen to your users. Are you measuring your network? Do you know what's happening on your network? Are you aware? So do you get those early signs of when something is going to might be going to go wrong? And then assume it will go wrong at some point, because we can do our best, but there will come a time when something will happen. So the third one is, prepare for the worst.
Yes, good advice. Finally, then, what's one assumption about connectivity that you see organizations make that you would encourage them to challenge and change?
I think the assumption is knowing it's going to be there, is assuming it's going to be there. We like to make networks invisible. It's a utility in many ways, um, but things go wrong. So making sure that you have assurance of that network. Don't assume, but assure. Measure it. Make sure you know what's happening on the network. Make sure you know uh, what's there, what it's doing. Listen, listen for when it might be going wrong. Listen to your users. Listen to what they're saying. Encourage them. Have open dialogues about uh, what they might be hiding from you, what they just don't know what to expect, and so are just not using the network for things when they could be using it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for speaking to us today,
Definitely.
and for all the insights you provided. And thank you all for listening. Please check out the description below to learn more about Jisc services and products, and head to www.jisc.ac.uk/podcasts to find more from our podcasts at Jisc. Thank you very much.